Greetings and salutations. It's IB Nation Sports Talk and the Rapid Fire Show up and rolling on Friday. He's Vince D'Addario, who everybody, of course, knows, but what they don't know is he was not really a last-minute replacement, but he was a replacement nonetheless. Yeah. Jesse was originally supposed to do today, and crazy things happened. And so here's Vince.
Hey.
That's the whole schedule flip around is why we started an hour late, but I guess the big show with Brian and Trevor went till 5:15 anyway.
Oh, well, that worked out okay then.
Yeah. We are kind of, as we sit here, awaiting the unveiling of the shirt.
Yes.
At Notre Dame. The tradition is they unveil the shirt, the student shirt, the day before the blue gold game, and that is supposed to be taking place right now. So we're kind of keeping an eye out for that. If someone sees it, let us know. But I'm always curious to see what it's going to be. I remember, was it a yellow shirt last year? Was it a blue shirt? What was it? Or was it kind of
green. I thought it was green.
That white shirt.
Wasn't it green?
I don't think it was green last year.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can't say for sure, but I don't think it was green.
Okay. Fair enough.
DK said, to be exact, 5:17. Very much like my daughter. It's not just 5:20. It's 5:22. Father David says the shirt is out. Are they tweeting about it yet?
It's out already. Oh, okay.
Let's see.
Like I said, I know they're like live streaming it, but where to find that is a whole other ball of wax. I don't know where to find that stuff.
Let's see. Here's the Twitter account. It was a green shirt 2 years ago. All I see is the shirt from 2 years ago. On the shirt ND, I don't see a current anything.
He put the link in the chat, but I don't see that, Father David. Where? Nothing has come up in the chat just yet.
It's an exciting show so far.
Yeah, well, that's what we do.
Okay. Marcus Freeman did a teaser video yesterday. Oh, that was also 2 years ago. So never mind. Everything that's popping up is from 2023. So
yeah.
Move on. Let's forget about it. We'll come back to the shirt later. Decaf says it's military green and gold. Okay, well.
So it's like that dark, like dark green?
Or is it OD green? You know, like it's kind of like it's like a combination, like almost like into a brown combined with green kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. Let's do other topics in the meantime, because it is Rapid Fire Day, and we've got a slew of blue gold themed topics for you today. Fill in the blank. The blue gold football game is Saturday, and the non-quarterback related thing you are most interested in, Vince, is blank.
I actually found the shirt if you want to.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
But anyway,
we'll come back.
Yeah, the most, I hate to say it, the most non-quarterback thing that I'm going to be watching is the offensive line. And I know that's kind of a weird answer because a lot of those guys are probably not going to be playing in 2025. But, you know, if it's the walking wounded like it was last year, then maybe they will be playing in 2025 at some point or another.
Yeah,
and so know. I kind of want to get an idea of what the depth chart is going to look like on the offensive line. So, you know, they're going to be a very important piece of whatever we talk about tomorrow on the show after the game is over, because they're going to impact a lot of different things, right? Because, you know, we're all excited about the quarterback position. We're all excited about the running back position. You know, there's obviously excitement surrounding the wide receiving position, although there's going to be a bunch of guys that aren't playing. So, you know, offensively, it starts and finishes with the offensive line. So that's where I'm going.
Okay. Because of the reasons that you mentioned, that's why I'm not watching the offensive line. You know, like you said, maybe some of these guys end up playing next year because of injuries. Okay, you know, I guess we've kind of got more fall training camp to kind of see what the actual, you know, offensive line is going to look like. So I think I'm looking just more at wide receivers and the safeties. Those are the two big things. You know, like Tay Johnson really stood out at last week's practice.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of curious to see, does that continue? You know, what does some of these other safeties look like as well? You know, because like you have Jalen Stroman coming in, they've got a lot of young talent, and they went to the transfer portal, brought in Stroman from Virginia Tech, and it's almost like, man, did they even need to go out and get him? With all these guys, especially after we saw
it's a great
Johnson last week. But so I'll be watching them to see not just Johnson, but what some of these other guys look like. And I just think wide receivers always have to be, we always kind of have to have an eye on them because we're still waiting, for this to feel like a full-fledged offense. And that starts, it starts with a quarterback, but the wide receivers are such a big extension of that as well.
Got a long way to go for the, and I think a lot of people are going to be, I don't know if upset is the right word, but disappointed maybe at what they are witnessing on the offensive side of the ball. So we're going to get to it in a little bit, but the scoring will make a difference as well.
Could see a lot of running backs.
Saturday
afternoon. All right. So do you have the shirt? You want to throw it up?
I do. So let me see what I can do here.
Larry said it's average.
Well, I actually kind of like it, but let me let's see, share screen. I think that's what I want right there. Go ahead and share that. Go right there. And there we go. Throw it up there. Brother.
That's not bad. That's like a forest green, right?
Yeah. I'm a fan of the forest green. Still my favorite Notre Dame green jerseys are the forest green ones with the gold numbers. Like those are still my favorite ones.
Really?
From the Brady Quinn, Jeff Samardzija era.
Yeah, those are nice.
Those are still my favorites. So this kind of harkens back to that with the coloring, with the gold writing and the, the green-ish, or not ish, it is green, the green shirt. So yeah, I like it. I dig. It's simple too. That's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the shirts in the past have been a little bit too much.
Simple and solid. It's got kind of a, I don't know what you'd call that font on the front.
It's kind of a gothic-ish.
Yeah, fancy gothic.
Kind
of thing.
They got some sort of a football play behind the Notre Dame script. I'm trying to see. It's hard to really kind of tell what it is because they've got arrows coming off of shamrocks, circles, and squares. So it's not. I don't think it's an actual real football play. Maybe I'm wrong. But and then you got a guy wearing 25. It's a 25 shirt running the ball. I dig it. I think it's cool.
NH says it reminds me of the 1992 shirt a little bit. Were they doing the shirt back in 92?
Oh, they were. I think
were they?
Back when they first started it. Yeah, in the early 90s.
Has it been that long? Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is the 36th annual.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't realize it'd been going for that long. I thought it started, well, I guess, the 88, because I was thinking, that would make sense. Because, like, you remember, the Catholics versus convicts and the 30 for 30 that they did, about making the shirt and all that kind of stuff. Didn't it kind of start the next year, basically?
Probably, because they wanted to get money off of it.
Yeah. It's basically like, why should we let bootleggers make all the money? Let's make our own money and do this thing.
Yeah, because if you figure 25, this is the 25th. So, you go back to 2000, and then you back it up another 10 years. 1990, right in that neighborhood. So,
all right. So there's the shirt. Go to the bookstore, buy it, order it online, whatever you do. All right, let's get into the meaty stuff here, bro. I think we're gonna have a little fun here.
I think we are too.
They touched on Notre Dame's quarterback competition in the Cover 3 podcast this week. This is the first time I've heard any of the Cover 3 podcast. I saw a short little video clip on X this week. So I gave it a listen. Danny Cannell, former quarterback, is one of the hosts of the show, and he offered up a little Notre Dame intel.
Oh, boy.
Here we go.
I don't want to put him out there on blast, but I do have another source from South Bend.
God.
Oh. He is a former, I'll just say he's in the NFL Hall of Fame. That's where I saw him at this golf tournament. And he has a son who plays for the Fighting Irish.
Uh-huh.
And I said to him,
that kind of narrows it down.
Who do you think is going to be the QB? And I said, probably going to be Angeli, right? He goes, no. He goes, I don't know. I think it's really up for grabs. And I said, oh, then it must be CJ Carr. And he said, no. He said,
Minchey.
That's not the one that is flashing. He talked to his son, and he said somebody who's been making a lot of plays is Minchey. And I did look it up. The actual depth chart has Angeli 1, Minchey 2, and Carr 3. Now, again, these depth charts, what do they mean? But I think Kenny Minchey's been playing pretty well for the Irish this spring. So we'll see if he can do it. I think this could be one of those ones that is a real live competition. But I still think Angeli's going to get the nod. Unless Minchey just continues to light him up. And if he has a big day, maybe it does make that jump.
So many different ways to go with this, Vince. First of all, what depth chart is he talking about?
He's probably looking at like the national championship,
right?
Depth chart,
or is he looking? Did he find the websites? Other sites put out the presumed depth charts. I mean, basically the Angeli Minchey Carr pecking order is the depth chart from last year. There is no spring depth chart. Notre Dame has never put out an actual depth chart.
No, and they're not going to.
And, going back to what we were talking about with the offensive line, what difference would it make if you put out a depth chart in the spring?
It wouldn't. There's so many guys that are not participating right now in the spring that a depth chart is a complete and utter waste of time.
Right.
I mean, it just is.
Nobody puts out depth charts in spring.
So he did his research and he found a depth chart. Great. You found the notes from the last game that they played. I don't know if that really means anything.
Right.
But whatever.
Well, then I want to know who's he playing golf with. I mean, there's 3 Hall of Famers to choose from that have sons on this team. You got Jerome Bettis.
Correct.
Brian Urlacher.
Correct.
Bryant Young. Narrows it down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 2 guys.
Who's he playing golf with? Who's spilling the beans?
That's a great question.
Out there.
That's a great question.
Let's react. Again, first there's the Minchey part of this.
Right.
Like Minchey is which we saw last year.
100%.
Can't disagree with that.
No, right? I have absolutely no qualms with anything he said about Kenny Minchey and the fact that he's according to his son, is out there making plays. No doubt about that, because he does. He absolutely makes plays. And a lot of times that can overshadow for a player, right, the mistakes that are made. And so that doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form. I was 100% on board with everything that he was saying, even saying that the quarterback competition is open and that there is a competition, a legit competition taking place.
But then he gave you that last sentence and you were about to fall out of your seat, weren't you?
He had to go there. He could have just stopped talking and he would have been absolutely right. And then he's like, well, and I expect it to be Angel. Why, Danny?
This is why you waste your time when you're listening to these national shows like this. Quite all they're doing is going on secondhand information.
Correct.
Correct.
Like I said, he was on par with praising Kenny Minchey and what he was doing in the spring and all. Absolutely, man. 100%. I'm with you. I am with you. It's an open competition. It's a competition. No doubt about it. Then you stop talking. That would have been best. And we could have had a lot of nice things to say about Danny Cannell. But
DJ says, what if the guy was just messing with Cannell? I mean, look, it's true information. Like Kenny Minchey has had a good spring. We've seen that. We've heard that, other than just when our eyes were there. We've heard that he's been having a good spring, and like there's so many different ways that you can kind of parse a sentence like that, because even, is the second, because one, it obviously starts out with whoever the Hall of Famer's son was, giving it, it's like a game of telephone, giving it to the dad, and then the dad at this golf event gives it to Cannell. I mean, so is it like, is it like Minchey is above everybody else, or is it, man, Minchey, we didn't see this from him last year, but now he's making plays out there. There's different levels to what Minchey is doing. We all know Kenny Minchey is doing really well because, again, we saw it last week.
Right. Yep. And he does. He makes plays. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. He makes plays with his legs. He makes plays with his arm. No doubt about it. And no one has said that that's not the case. I do think Kenny Minchey is absolutely part of this competition. 100% agree with this. No doubt.
DK says, weird that all these ex-quarterbacks think highly of Angeli. It's because Angeli is the only other quarterback they've seen. Like, correct. They know Angeli because Angeli has been in a couple games. I mean, literally. So, like, they've all become infatuated with Steve Angeli because that's the parcel of information that they know because they're not here. And, they don't know like what's actually going on in this quarterback competition. They know that there's these three guys. So everyone's just assuming, like so many others, that, well, Angeli's the one with the experience. He's going into his junior year. He's been here longer than everyone else. Why wouldn't he be the starting quarterback? That's yes. Why these guys are all so high on him. Basically.
And what do they know? What do they know of him? Right. I mean, that's he's been the number 2 for the last 3 years, basically. That's what they know of him. And in pecking order, he would be the next one to take the reins. And what they've seen of him on a cursory level, right, is, he drove him down to kick a field goal in the Orange Bowl, and he lit up Oregon State or whoever it was they played in the Sun Bowl. That's the Steve Angeli that they know, right? They're not seeing him every day at practice like the coaches. They're not even seeing him in practice as much as the media is, right? And so all they have is what we have in games.
That's exactly right. Like you said, like we have actually seen all 3 of these quarterbacks because we're here. And even though we've had limited practice viewing abilities, those limited opportunities are still more than, Danny Cannell or Greg McElroy or any of these other former quarterbacks who have put Angeli up on this pedestal and just assumed that he's going to be the guy who gets the job because he was the backup last year and because he's put in his time, which, by the way, putting in your time and being loyal to the program, and this goes for anybody. It's not just Steve Angeli. Those are not reasons to earn a starting job, whether it's quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, or anywhere. Simply putting in your time and paying your dues is not good enough.
I wouldn't look. We've talked about this before. You and I have both been head coaches. I've been coordinating, all that stuff for football, all of those things. Even at the high school level, I am not giving the starting nod to a kid just because he's been around the whole time. Like that's not how competitive athletics works.
Correct.
Okay. Like I said, even at the high school level where we weren't even all that competitive in a lot of games, I'm not giving the nod to a kid who's just been around for 4 years.
Still going to put the best guy in there.
100%. I'll give him the start on senior day, but like, I'm going to put the best guy in there who gives us the best chance to win, period. Right. And so if that's Steve Angeli, awesome. I don't think it is, but if it's CJ Carr or Kenny Minchey, awesome. Those are the guys that need to start. And that, like you said, it's not just a quarterback thing. It is whatever position. When I was a head coach of baseball, if I've got a senior catcher who's not great and I got a sophomore who's really good, guess who I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with the sophomore, and the senior is going to be my bullpen catcher, and he's going to be a great leader from the bench.
Right.
Okay? Like, that's just the way it goes. And I know in this day and age of NIL and transfer portal and all that, everybody wants to give more credit to guys that stick around. Okay, I mean, you can do that, I suppose, but at the end of the day, you are going to play who gives you the best chance to win. End of discussion. That's where I'm at.
Great point, DJ. If you subscribe to that, you'd start Sarah Cernugal over Hannah Hidalgo on the women's basketball team. Ding, ding, ring it up right there. Josh says, unless you're Coach Kelly. And I was actually thinking about this earlier today when I was thinking about some of this stuff, because this is like that line of thinking is literally like a Brian Kelly line of thinking. Like if you go back to, okay, why did you start Brandon Wimbush over Ian Book, and then Ian Book took over? If you're talking about this succession plan, like that's a different coaching staff. Like this coaching staff, like look at the kind of guys who have played in the last couple of years for Marcus Freeman. It looks different, right? And these 2 young quarterbacks look different than what we've seen come out of this Notre Dame program in quite a while. And that's why 100%. They have themselves. That's why I'll just segue into this next part of this question here. Will watching the Blue Gold game Saturday end the stream of bad quarterback takes, or is it just going to fuel more bad takes for the next 3 months?
The second one. And there's no question in my mind, because it will be confirmation bias, right? People are going to see what they want to see. If you're a CJ fan, you're going to think that he's walking on water out there. If you're a Steve Angeli fan, it's going to be the offensive line's fault that he didn't play well in the blue gold game, right? If you're a Kenny Minchey fan, you're going to be real happy because he's probably going to have to escape the pocket on numerous occasions because of the offensive line, right? And he's going to make some plays with his legs. So you're going to see what you want to see. The only thing that is going to shape the argument for the next 3 months is if somebody hits the transfer portal, whoever it is.
Right.
If somebody hits the transfer portal, that will shape our discussion for the next.
That'll
3
change
months.
Everything, because then it becomes obviously a 2-man race instead
Correct.
of a 3-man race.
Right. And if nobody hits the transfer portal, this is the topic of conversation for the next 3 months until Marcus Freeman names a starter.
Well, and part of that, that whole the Canal podcast, I think, something that they kind of, the road that they went down, as well. Sooner or later, someone's got to emerge and all that. Like, look, Marcus Freeman's not going to name a starting quarterback, or, he's not going to put out a depth chart the minute spring football ends. He's just not going to do that. He's never done that. Brian Kelly didn't do
Most
that.
coaches don't. Like, why would you?
That doesn't mean the guys in the room don't know
Correct.
what the pecking order is and what that looks like, but they're not just going to come up, unless they have, one-on-one conversations with each of these guys and say, look, this is what it's looking like. Right.
And I think they will. I do think there's going to be kind of, exit interviews essentially at the end of spring, and probably for every position group. Right. And I think those discussions are probably going to take place with the position coach. Maybe the coordinators in on those. At some spots, maybe the head coach is in on those. But I think those conversations are going to take place. And I think those conversations are going to look something like, hey, this is where we see you right now. You either had a good spring, a great spring, a bad spring, whatever. This is what we need to see from you in the summertime and then into fall camp. And this is where we reset, and then maybe the discussion would lend to, and again, not talking necessarily about quarterbacks, but then maybe the discussion is, hey, transfer portal opens here. If that's what you would like to do, we will support you in every way. Obviously the conversation goes in different directions at that point, but I think they should, if they don't, have interviews with these guys so that they kind of know where they stand going into the summertime. I do.
I mean, at the very least, if, even if the coaching staff didn't go to them and say, look, this is where you stand. If the players went to the coaching staff and asked, they would be told where they stand.
Correct.
That's just the way business.
And I would want to know.
Right.
I, as a player, would want to know where I stand. No ambiguity, right? Like, I want to know where I stand. And are those conversations hard sometimes for a coach to have with a player? Yeah, they are, because you do care for your players. You don't want to upset them. You don't want to hurt their feelings, But I think those conversations need to be had, especially this day and age with the transfer portal, with NIL, with all of the extra stuff that's out there, right? These guys aren't locked in for 5 years like they used to be 20 years ago, right? So I think you have to have that conversation with a lot of these guys. And again, Notre Dame's going to push some guys out. Some guys are going to leave because they don't like what they're hearing. And some guys are going to be locked in and hit, summer and fall. So I just feel like those conversations should be had with every player.
Yes. But we're going to hear all kinds of takes left and right. And I mean,
my God,
just coming out of this week, because what's crazy, Vince, is, and we've talked about this, after that practice last week, like, we all pretty much felt like, man, it should be pretty obvious to everybody, kind of like what this is, how this whole thing, how this 3-man race is shaping up now. But it was amazing leaving last Saturday's practice to hear, there were many different viewpoints about what we actually saw, like everyone's eyes saw something a little bit different. And to your point, I think you're probably seeing what you want to see, when it comes right down to it.
Like I said, there's going to be a lot of confirmation bias coming out of the Blue Gold game tomorrow, by media, by fans, maybe even by some coaches, right? You're going to see what you want to see, unless it's just painfully obvious that one is better than the other.
Well, and that's what's
right.
You mentioned a good point, and that is the offensive line, and just like how the offensive line impacts what we see tomorrow because of the fact that it is going to be so piecemeal. Mm-hmm. Even the first team offensive line is not a first team offensive line. It's basically a bunch of, at best number 2 guys with Charles Jagasaw out there, assuming Jagasaw ends up playing. Still curious as to whether, Mil Wagner is going to get out there. That'll kind of, like if you have him, at least you've got a couple of first team guys out there. But I think, each quarterback is going to look a little bit different. Just the way they operate based on what's going to be in front of them on the line and what's on the other side of the ball. Because the defense looked really good last week,
and they will dominate on Saturday.
Look, they might all 3 look great tomorrow. They might all 3 look mediocre tomorrow. They might all 3 look bad tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen. Or obviously, 2 of the 3, good, 1, but whatever it happens to be. I just really feel like, when we talk about quarterback takes, you just need to get used to this because it's going to be Minchey or Carr. It's going to be one of those 2 guys. I said it.
Breaking news.
I don't know how many months ago. No, I mean, this is like that.
I'm kidding with
I
you.
said it many months ago.
Yes.
That, and I placed the wager that you would run around your house in your underwear at midnight if anyone other than those 2 guys is the starting quarterback when the 2025 season begins.
And I was okay with that.
And I will agree that I will be out there with you now if that happens. So
that's right.
That's how comfortable I feel about this.
I feel very comfortable.
You just need to get used to that.
Yes, I feel very comfortable with it as well. And we don't need to beat people over the head with it. It's just it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just is what it is. The
cream is rising to the top.
Yes.
And that's the cream.
And people are very adamant who are Steve Angeli fans. They're very adamant and they have convinced themselves he is the right man for the job. I may have lost a friendship over the situation over text the other day.
Right.
But it is what it is. And we'll all find out together August 31st, whoever runs out of that tunnel down in Miami Gardens or wherever the heck they play football in Miami. And we'll see who the starting quarterback is. And I am very confident that it's not going to be the guy wearing 18. I'm just very confident that that's the case. And I will get on the bandwagon of Brian and say, I'm cool if it's 13 and I'm cool if it's 8. I'm cool if it's either one of those guys because I think they're both dynamic players, just in their own right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm cool with however they want to do it, right? But I think it's going to be one of those 2.
Look, they're both again. Let's let everybody watch the game.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I'm very curious to see how it goes tomorrow.
We'll be back Monday. I don't think we need to dig, deeper on this right now because we've already ticked a lot of people off who are
that's okay.
Angeli backers. And again, it's nothing personal. It
really isn't. He's a great guy.
It's appreciate what he's put into the program and everything else, all the work that he's put in and all that stuff. But again, earning a starting job is not about the time that you put into the program, or to DJ's point, otherwise walk-ons, would be starters by the time they get to year 4 or 5.
Right.
It's about who's the most talented, who is the best option. And obviously the quarterback position being the most important position on the field.
Correct.
You've got to get it right. The other 2 are just clearly more talented, and their mental aspect, especially with Minchey, like you can see the difference in the way Minchey, is seeing the defense, and all those different things right now. But to me, the guy who is elite at that kind of stuff is the youngest guy of the whole bunch, Carr.
Agreed. Yep, completely agree. So,
Paula wants to know if there'll be a show after the game. Yes, there will. I think
buddy.
Is it a 4-man show tomorrow, or is it a 3-man show?
It's 3-4. I'm not exactly sure if Sean Davis is going to be there or not, but it's going to definitely be me, Brian, and Trevor. While you take care of the post-game duties. So at least be 3 of us. I'm not sure about Sean Davis. I think that's TBA, but he's always TBA, and in the greatest way possible. Like you never know when he's going to be a part of a post-game show, and when he does, then we're better for it.
I know he's coming to town anyway.
Yes,
he's coming to town.
This is true because there's plans in the works, from what I understand. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right, Justin. Angeli just doesn't have the same tools that Minchey and Carr have. There's clearly no doubt about what he has. again, the experience gives him the, the experience factor he has. The fact that he's been in the program for 3 years, the fact that he's played in a handful of games, one start, played, the series in the Orange Bowl. So he's been there to an extent. But what he doesn't have, like, those arms look different. The way they make their reads look different. The way, like you talked about, the long delivery that Angeli has compared to the other two, the way the ball gets out, the way the ball is so behind receivers so much with Angeli. I think in part because, one, he holds on to the ball so long, and two, that long delivery just doesn't help him. Like if everything is short passes, like at the end of the first half in the Orange Bowl, where all you've got to do, is get it out quick. Okay, that's great, but like you're not going to have a defense playing 2-minute defense, prevent defense at the end of the half and giving you the cushion that they were giving him to be able to complete all those passes within 6 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Longest pass of that drive, Sean, because you went back and looked at it, right?
Longest completion.
Right.
Like, in the
Where
air was 6 yards.
6 yards.
And I think one went for 12 yards. One went for, after the,
after catch. Yes.
Yeah. One went for 14 or something.
6 yards.
That. But in the air, 6 yards was the longest completion.
I'm sorry. That is defendable when you have film. And for all of the people saying that he has so much experience, guess what that experience equals? Film that defensive coordinators are going to watch, and they're going to know how to defend him. And it's not going to end well. Like that, I'm absolutely convinced that is the case. It's just not going to end well. Not only will they take away all of that short stuff, but they're going to heat him up.
Let me ask you this, because I mean, he didn't stand out to me, like, especially like if you took away Minchey's interception, which again, the interception factors into Minchey's day. You can't just take it out of there. Like, Minchey had the highest of highs. Carr was right behind him, and then Angeli was just kind of steady. He wasn't bad, but he was steady. What do you think about the idea, like this concept that Angeli could just be a bad practice player? What do you think about that?
I would say, and I'm going to actually use your words on this one. So a couple of minutes ago, you were talking about how quarterback is the most important position on the field. And I don't think anybody can really debate that, right? You can say that as a whole, the offensive line is extremely important, blah, 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 right? The quarterback's the most important player on the field. That's why he gets paid the most money in the NFL and in college now. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the most important position. There are positions that you can get away with a guy being a gamer and not a great practice player. Wide receiver. Okay. We can have that talk, right?
Sure.
Corner. We can have that talk. I'm not having that talk about a quarterback. I need to be able to trust that what I'm imparting in practice is going to translate to a game. I can't spend 6 days like, well, it's okay that he
I don't know what we're going to get on Saturday. Yeah.
Like, he'll get
like it'll
get it.
He's a gamer. It'll happen.
No big deal. It'll happen on Saturday. He can't throw this route for crap during practice, but he'll get it on Saturday. You cannot operate that way. So anybody that says that doesn't understand the game. I'll be real honest with you. And as a coach, you can't trust your team in the hands of a guy that can't do it Sunday through Friday, but then all of a sudden is a gamer on Saturday. That's not a thing. Like that, you can't operate that way. Not at that position.
And again, it's not that he's looked awful in practice, and it's like nothing that, how do I sort of explain this? Again, it's like what separates Minchey and Carr from Angeli, or Angeli from Minchey and Carr, that, the separation between the two is literally just the physical traits that they have. Because like Angeli was making the right choices at practice last week. It's just that many of the balls were high over the middle of the field, or they were behind receivers. And that had more to do with just the physical difference, literally in the arm strength that those two guys have compared to what he has.
You're right. Plain and simple.
And in a real game, that can just flat out cost you.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like you're going to see that in spades on Saturday, right? There's going to be a lot of pressure on the quarterback on Saturdays because the defense is going to play. Like they're going to pin their ears back. They're going to come. They're going to play. And so all three guys are going to be under pressure. It's how do they deal with that pressure? That's going to be the thing. And I know the detractors or the pro Angeli crowd is going to be like, well, what do you expect? He didn't have the starting offensive line in front of him. How can you, because that's what we hear about that drive against Penn State, Sean, right? Is that, if they could block, then he would have been just fine. That's what we're going to hear coming out of Saturday. Like, it doesn't matter how
when you've got an All-American first-round pick on the other side of the ball, sometimes your offensive line is, like it's a 50-50 proposition. Sometimes they're going to be able to block Abdul Carter, and sometimes they're not going to be able to. But you know what? When it's the right tackle and you're a right-handed quarterback and you're staring, like you're facing that direction, you have to be able to have the physical presence to at least move to get out of the way of that. You
Correct.
Can say, well, okay, at least he secured the ball. He didn't fumble. Okay, great. But at the same time, he literally was a statue with Abdul Carter bearing down on him on that last sack of that drive that right before the field goal.
Right. Yep.
And that's not even talking about the other fumble, where you can make the case, okay, well, it came from the blind side, whatever. But yeah.
I'm just telling you what people are going to say. I obviously don't believe it.
Well, like as soon as you started saying that, remember what happened last year? We got the closed door scrimmage, and then a week later, we got the blue gold game.
Right.
And in the closed door scrimmage, Angeli threw the 2 interceptions that both looked really bad, but he was a lot better in the actual blue gold game the next week. Like, didn't make those fatal mistakes. I don't think he had an interception in the blue game, or did he? Or was that last interception? I can't remember if that last interception was him or not. But in any case, he looked a lot better in the blue gold game than he did in that scrimmage. And again, that left a different kind of impression on a lot of people as a result. Because Carr, while Carr was still good in the blue gold game, he wasn't quite as sharp as he was in that scrimmage the week before either. So, and Minchey was just at that point, just kind of the guy riding in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they all, I won't say all, the 2 younger guys definitely look a lot different this year.
Yep. No, completely agree with that. And it'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see because they're all going to be competing behind the same offensive line against the same defense. They'll all take snaps with the number 1 group because we saw that. It's going to be a very similar situation to what we saw on Saturday that we're going to see tomorrow. So they'll all get their opportunity. And so we'll kind of have some apples to apples comparisons. And again, people are going to see what they want to see. And that's totally fine. We'll see how it plays out over the next 2 weeks as well. I think that's the bigger thing.
Yep. Transfer portal opens next Wednesday, closes on the 25th.
So 2 weeks, right? But give a little less.
Week and a half.
Right? Week and a half.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Junior Jabby, of course, has become synonymous with the player who has the big spring game, but it doesn't necessarily translate into any actual success during the season. Do you have a prediction for this weekend's Junior Jabby Award candidate? Who might really pop for us tomorrow afternoon, Saturday afternoon, but it might not actually translate into anything? I almost kind of hesitated to do this because I don't want it to be like we're insulting people. You know what I mean?
But I've got my caveat for it, right? Like, so the answer to the question, and I'm basing this a lot on what we saw on Saturday, but my answer to the question is Elijah Burris.
Okay.
And because he got a lot of targets on Saturday, and I think he's going to get a lot of targets come Saturday as well, because it's basically going to be the same depth chart, the same kind of a situation, right? So I think he's going to get a lot of targets. I think he's going to make a lot of plays. My caveat to this is that I'm not saying that we're never going to hear from Elijah Burris again
right
after Saturday.
That's the biggest difference with Jabby is like literally he moved from safety to running back. And they threw him out there. He has 87 yards, on 13 carries, I think it was, in that 2007 blue gold game.
Right.
And then he had a handful of carries in the season, and then he transferred after that.
Okay.
So
I couldn't even remember what happened to him, by the way.
Yeah.
So that tells you. I'm not saying Elijah Burris is never going to make his name as a Notre Dame player.
Just might not be this year's, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Like
that's
this
correct.
year. I'm not saying
It's
career.
not,
I'm saying this year.
I don't think he cracks the rotation in 25. He's got a great opportunity to crack the rotation in 26, but I don't think it's going to be in 25. And so that's why I'm picking him for this category, because I don't think he's going to be a factor in the 25 season.
Okay. I'm actually kind of curious to see what happens with him this year. But I mean, there's like for tomorrow, there's not going to be any Malachi Fields. I don't think Will Pauling is going to play because he's been a little bit banged up, so you basically, I don't even know if Jordan Faison is going to be out there. So my point is
there's a lacrosse home game and it's like at 5:00.
So you might see both. Who knows?
I think that's what I saw. I'd have to double check my my findings on that one, but you might see him, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah. So I mean, I definitely think Elijah Burris is going to have a chance to make some plays because he was targeted pretty heavily in that practice last week when all three of those guys were throwing to him. And obviously the practice ended with the Carr touchdown pass. So,
right.
Yeah. But what that translates to during the season, another story.
He's got some mountains to climb to get into that rotation. Yeah. I mean, that's just reality, right? I mean, Micah Gilbert was that guy kind of last spring, right? He was the guy that flashed that everybody was talking about, and he looked really good in the spring. He didn't really crack the rotation in 24, right?
I'm going to give you one.
Okay, what do you got?
Here's my candidate. And this guy, we're going to have a long summer.
Oh, boy.
Just like with the quarterback conversation because of it. Tyler Buckner.
Oh, no.
Great athlete, blue gold game, former quarterback, playing wide receiver now, doing some other stuff. Like, this is a chance for Tyler Buckner. Well, now he's playing lacrosse though too, so I don't even know. Like,
you got me.
If Buckner's out there, that's my pick.
Oh boy, wouldn't that be fun if they did like a reverse pass or something like that? Like, it's spring, like open it up, have some fun, that kind of a deal. Maybe with the third teamers, or I mean, he'll never take a snap as a quarterback in the spring game tomorrow because they've got 5, right? They've got 5 quarterbacks that could take snaps as a quarterback. So it's going to have to be some sort of a trick play, something like that.
You could line him up as a running back. You could,
you could do a lot of stuff. He's wearing 26 for
making him a kickoff returner if you wanted to.
You absolutely could.
That's why I'm going. That's why I'm going with Buckner.
Yeah. You know who I hope has a good day? That if he doesn't, I fear what we're going to be talking about for the next 3 months as well. Noah Burnett.
The kicker.
Because, we didn't really talk about it. He had one opportunity. Apparently he's coming off of injury, so he had one opportunity on Saturday. It was a 28-yard field goal, and he missed it. And I really hope that whatever opportunity he gets in this game, in this scrimmage, in this practice, that he hits it. Because I don't want to have the conversation about the Notre Dame's kicking game over the next 3 months. Like, that's the last thing I want to talk about, to be perfectly honest with you. So I really hope that he hits whatever opportunity he has. So we're not talking about it.
Well, I mean, last year we had worries coming out of the blue gold game with the kicking.
It's awful.
Right? And season started off well, and then he gets hurt, obviously. And, that was big. He came through when he needed to. Like when it was time to make big kicks in the postseason,
100%.
He was ready to go.
Nobody could say that he wasn't a key reason that Notre Dame did what they did in the postseason, right?
Yep.
But do you remember during last spring, Eric Goings was like the punter and all of those things, like the 30-year-old kid. Like he was the one doing it. And it was like, might be a long season. Remember he was punting to that student. That didn't really go very well. Remember all that?
Oh, that's right.
Yes, it was ugly.
A lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Outbound wants to know if there'll be any live punts tomorrow. We're going to talk about the rules coming up here in a minute. I don't like if they punt, it's not going to be live. I don't think there's going to be a live punt return.
You're not going to let a punt returner get teed off on by a gunner coming down. There's no chance that'll happen. Maybe they line up and punt, and they let him punt it, and it's just an automatic fair catch kind of a situation. But there's no way it'll be a live punt return.
Yeah.
No chance.
So what about the other side of this? Do you have a prediction for a player who might pop in the blue gold game, who goes on to, at least a significant role this season. Like, and I'm talking about outside, the norm of expected, like you can't pick a Don Shula or Jaden Greathouse, I don't think, for example.
I will ask you if I'm allowed to pick this particular player, and then you can tell me to go fly a kite. Am I allowed to pick Aeneas Williams?
Well, you are, because I'm picking Aeneas Williams as well.
Yes. Well, I'll let you say why. Because he was the first one off the tip of my tongue because of his third down, acuity last year, and I think his role expands. But you go ahead and you give your reasoning.
I mean, for one, I would be shocked if we see Jeremiah Love suited up after he tweaked a hamstring last week. I would be floored if we see him out there. And for that reason, what's the purpose in even putting Jadarian Price out there? And like, if you do see Jadarian Price, you're not just going to make Jadarian Price the workhorse and all of a sudden he's going to get 20 carries. I think it's going to be a pretty good split. I think Aeneas Williams and Kedron Young are going to both be out there quite a bit. And because Aeneas is a guy who can both run and catch and do so many things, and the fact that wait till you see Aeneas Williams tomorrow, because the guy is, he was more, he felt more like a bulky running back last year. He's more, kind of trimmed down, a little bit sleeker this year, looks even more agile. So he just looks very impressive. And I think he's going to be, kind of the guy who's going to benefit the most out of this whole thing.
Yep, I'm with you. I think that he's going to get a lot of touches on Saturday. I think, the running back room as a whole, you're not going to see a whole lot of Jadarian Price. I don't think you're going to see Jeremiah Love. I think those two are pretty much going to be shelved. So your next guy on the list is Aeneas Williams. I think Aeneas Williams, Kedron Young, I think you're going to see them get a lot of carries. You're probably going to see Jabron Payne get a decent chunk of carries just because he was out, all of last season. So they might try to get him some work, in this one. But you're just not going to see the top two guys. So process of elimination tells me Aeneas Williams is going to get a lot of carries. And he's really good. So he's going to catch stuff out of the backfield. He's going to run the ball. Offensive line's going to have something to say about this, obviously. But I think he's going to make at least one impressive, I don't want to say spectacular, he's going to make one impressive catch tomorrow that everybody's going to be thinking about after the game's over.
Justin is nominating Madden for Ramo, and I might want to slow down a little bit on him, because based on, we talked to Max Bulla, what's it been, a little bit more than a week ago, I guess, and I think, did we play the Max Bulla comments here on the show, you and I? He's there, but he's not, if you're looking at where KVA was last year, it sounds like KVA in his spring last year is at least a few steps ahead of where Madden for Ramo is right now in his spring. So don't compare the two just because they're similar looking guys, similar backgrounds, and obviously very talented in the whole thing. He might end up playing a part, but for right now, want to kind of hold off and see that transition into fall camp and kind of what things look like after the summer.
I think there's a possibility that he could flash, only because he will be probably running with the third team, which will be early enrollees, walk-ons, things like that. And look, Madden for Ramo is a specimen physically, and he will just overpower guys like that. You know what I mean? So the competition level, I don't know that he'll be rotating in with the ones. And so he'll be down a peg. And so he may be able to just see ball, get ball kind of a deal. And so he may flash, but he may be, and we will never know this, right? He may be going in the complete wrong direction or filling the wrong gap and doing the wrong thing, but ends up making the play just because he's so advanced. You see what I'm saying?
The other thing that's going to be important to keep in mind is, because it's an offense versus defense format, who's on the field with some of these guys at the same time, that can impact, who's flashing, who's not, all those different things. Going back to the quarterbacks, Outbound asks, is it fair to ask if Angeli had a bad day last Saturday? Vince even said before it is only one practice and wasn't gonna fall too far into it.
Listen, I Outbound, I think you're right on the money, right? I think I don't think he had a good day on Saturday. Here's the thing. As I was watching all three quarterbacks play on Saturday, it reinforced, and again, this is, the confirmation bias, right? But it reinforced exactly my thoughts on all three guys. It was, Steve is great when he's got no pressure on him. When he's in a 7-on-7 type of situation, he's really good. As soon as there's a defense putting any kind of pressure on him, he struggles, right? That's what happened on Saturday, but that was my opinion going in. CJ Carr makes the least amount of mistakes and can flash with his arm. That happened on Saturday. Kenny Minchey makes plays with his legs, can make plays with his arms, but makes the fatal mistake. That was Kenny Minchey on Saturday. So like, they did everything that I thought that they were, and I just saw it in a smaller sample size on Saturday. That's where I'm
Again, Angeli's day was not horrible last week. It's just that, again, this is a three-man competition. So in a three-man competition, like I know Gino Gaduli, like for the players themselves, it's you against you. But at the end of the day, for the coaches, it's you against the other two when there are three guys involved in this whole thing. So if you're looking at the three guys side by side last week, Angeli had the worst day of the three. Again, that doesn't mean it was a horrible day. It was literally, like off by inches, like we talked about with some of the high passes and the throws, just a tad late behind receivers. But again, part of that is because he doesn't have the physical assets, the physical tools that the other two guys have. That's
Correct.
why those things happen for Steve Angeli. And those kind of things are always going to be there for Steve Angeli, because no matter what he does, he's just not going to have the same physical attributes that the other two guys have.
Correct. And in a nutshell, Outbound, you're absolutely correct. Like, it could have been a bad day. Maybe he's lighting it up every other day, and this day we were there, he didn't. Is that a possibility? Absolutely, it's a possibility. That's just not the intel that we're getting when we talk to people that are close to the program and that are at more practices than we are. Like I said, Saturday was kind of a microcosm of my analysis of all three guys from what I've seen from all three guys in practices.
And, look, if a wide receiver gets wide open again, like happened last year, and he throws an 80-yard touchdown, I mean, is that what we're going to be talking about? Because he hit a wide open receiver?
Yep.
Is that, is that going to weigh in Steve Angeli's face, for any of these three guys?
But here's the thing, okay, we're going to look at Saturday, right? And what Steve Angeli does well is throw short passes, right? And he had an opportunity in Saturday's practice to hit a very short glance throw to Cam Williams and threw it way behind him. Like, he didn't miss by a little bit. He missed by a lot. Now, if I'm the wide receivers coach, I'm telling Cam he needs to catch that, okay? But if he twists his body and catches that ball back here, he's going to get tackled. If the ball is right here, that's an 80-yard touchdown. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, he had an opportunity to have a big play with a short throw, and he didn't do it. That's what you're supposed to do, Steve. That's what I need from you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wide receiver with perfect position. He's got the positioning on the defensive back. Literally, all he's got to do is hit him in stride, and he doesn't. And so instead of, like you said, probably an 80-yard touchdown, it's an incompletion. And, like you said, Williams got his hands on it. You at least need to make that catch as a receiver because his hands were on it. But, instead of catching it here, he had to turn back here. And that's the difference in the play being made or not being made.
Correct. Yep.
Fill in the blank. The scoring system they'll use for Saturday's blue gold game is blank.
Is convoluted, but favors the defense. And the reason
because there are a million ways for the defense to score.
Correct. And I think the defense is going to be more dominant in this game in the first place. And they have not rigged, because that's not the right word, but they have made it such that the defense is going to have a great opportunity to win this scrimmage. Okay. A pick six is worth 14 points.
Right.
If I read that right. 14. So there's a good chance there's going to be a pick six in this game. That's all I'm going to say. I think there's a real good chance that could happen. And that's almost an insurmountable lead.
To me, the score of the game, the scoring system are completely irrelevant for a game like this? Like, are any of us actually going to look at the scoreboard and care what the scoreboard says?
The only thing I'll be looking at it for is like, okay, wait, how did they get to that? Like, I'll try to figure it out. Like, that's the only reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like, where'd the thing go? Forcing a punt, you get 1 point. Takeaway in plus territory is 5 points. This is for the defense. Takeaway in minus territory, 7 points. Defensive score, 12 points. Tackle for loss, 1. Sack, 2. Field goal block, 3. PAT return for a score, 2. Failed 2-point conversion, 2. Fourth down stop in plus territory, 2. Fourth down stop in minus territory, 2. Missed field goals, 2. You've literally got twice as many ways for the defense to score as for the offense. Like, the offense is pretty much the same as usual, except for you get a point for every first down. You get 2 points for a gain of 20 plus yards. And then pretty much everything else is standard.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you get a 50 plus play, it should be worth 5. If they're giving all these extra points for the defense.
and here's the deal. Like, the defense can score more than the offense, even if the offense scores a touchdown on that drive.
Yeah, that's true.
They get like a couple sacks.
Get a couple sacks or whatever, tackle for loss.
You know what I mean? Like, the offense could legitimately score a touchdown and lose the drive. Like, that totally favors the defense.
Yep, for sure. So we've heard a lot about schools like Nebraska, USC, and LSU, of course, canceling their spring games. A lot of other schools are playing their spring games, but they're not televising the games. Notre Dame's game, of course, is going to be broadcast nationally on Peacock. And I saw that a lot of people are fired up because you got Jason Garrett out there doing the game on Peacock this weekend. My question, should Notre Dame be broadcasting this game?
Oh, it makes zero difference. If they want to make some money on it, go ahead and make some money on it. I have no problem with it because of what we saw on Saturday, this past Saturday, right? When there were no TV cameras and there was none of the extra, right? If you think watching that scrimmage, that practice is going to benefit any team in the fall of 2025,
come on, Vince. All these backup offensive linemen are playing. Offensive linemen are playing, and someone's going to swoop in and steal them away, Vince.
It's my point exactly. Okay, nobody's going to watch this game and be like, that third team offensive tackle, I got to have him on my team. Like, there's no way. It's going to be such a vanilla situation. It's not going to showcase anybody doing anything. It doesn't matter at all. Go ahead and put it on TV.
Completely agree. Agree.
I'd make copies of it and I'd send it to all the opponents for next year, and it's not going to make any difference.
I don't understand why all these coaches are so scared.
Oh my God.
It is just nuts to me. There was a transfer portal last year. They televised last year's game. Notre Dame made it to the national championship game. I think Ohio State's game was televised last year. They won a national championship.
Correct.
None of this stuff matters. Like, if you're doing your job, you're recruiting and you're coaching, you're going to be fine. You know, if you lose a couple third string offensive linemen or, whoever it happens to be, okay. Like, come on. You really want to live your life?
Game.
I can't imagine being a coach like that and just be that paranoid about everything.
Correct. And look, Notre Dame is a coast-to-coast, nation-to-nation team. Like, there are fans of Notre Dame around the world, right? We hear about this all the time. If you want to continue to cultivate that and cultivate that fanhood, then you need to televise this game. Let people get excited about Notre Dame football. And there's a lot of people that can't fly into Notre Dame to watch a freaking spring game in person. And so let them watch it on Peacock.
Yeah.
All right. So I have zero problem with it.
Me too.
Zero.
Right there with you. Notre Dame released a statement today saying alcohol is now going to be sold in both premium and general admission seating areas in Notre Dame football, basketball, and hockey games, beginning with the upcoming 2025 football season. You in or out on it, Vince?
Did they mention the press box?
No mention of the press box.
Okay, well,
which is a shame, really. I mean, honestly, I know that they have it for the suites that are up there on our level.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
I've seen it in there. I've peeked behind the door.
I know,
and you see it in there. It's great for fans. They're obviously the ones that wanted it. It's not obviously going to change my experience any. I saw somebody post about, now you're going to get a more raucous crowd, a louder environment. Okay. I guess I have never felt the need to get inebriated to cheer for my team. Like, that's never been a thing for me. So I don't care. People think it's going to make them cheer louder. If it makes the atmosphere louder, great. I don't care that much. I don't know.
Hey, Outbound, I hear they're selling beer at the stadium now. We literally just said this, dude. Like, what?
Come on, man. Stay with us. Stay with us, my man.
Keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of different things. Like, is the crowd going to be more raucous? Well, I mean, people are out there in the tailgate for how many hours before a game?
Especially night games.
And they're Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame resisted night games for so long because of this reason. They didn't want people out there tailgating all day and getting loaded and then going into the games. But guess what?
Yeah.
You dance with TV,
Correct.
So now they're doing night games. They've been doing them for however long they've been doing them now. And you know what happens? Whether it's a night game or a day game or whatever else, it's like guys are two-fisting beers and they're slamming, they're chugging their extra beers and taking their extra shots on their way from the parking lot to the gate before they go in the game, so they're like loading up even more. So now, like, you can do your tailgate, you can go in and, you can have whatever alcohol you want to have. And, look, obviously there's different degrees of everything, in terms of, you talk about you don't need to be inebriated to go to a game. Look, pretty much every professional game I go to, a baseball game or a football game, I'll have 3 or 4 beers, and like I'm not there to get drunk. I'm just there to have a good time, have a couple beers, and enjoy having a few beverages at the game. That's it. And I think the majority of people are fairly responsible because we don't hear horror, like, again, it's not like no one's ever been, asked to leave or been, like passed out drunk or whatever. Like, that stuff happens. But again, like, all that stuff has already been happening when the alcohol is limited to the tailgates. Now, granted, some people sneak their stuff in. So it's like, it's 2025, man. Like, I've been to enough college games, both basketball, football, and other places where it is kind of jarring when you look around and it's like you smell the beer and, guys are walking around with their open containers because we're just not used to that here at Notre Dame. But I think fans have been wanting it. And, let's be honest, it's another revenue source for Notre Dame as well to have it. So,
and somebody also mentioned like they could use that for NIL. I hate to break it to you, but Notre Dame is not sharing their alcohol money with the NIL.
That's
not
the way that's going to go down.
No, it's not.
No.
Look, Notre Dame campus, like Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame, is the weirdest conglomerate of departments I've ever been associated with in my entire life. Like, they charge each other for things all the time. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but it happens all the time.
What I've heard is the reason it took this long for alcohol sales, to actually come to football games and, and these obviously other events as well, is because of the fact that you've got all these different donors who are involved, and some of them are affiliated with different alcohol/beer distributors. So you got Miller on this side, you got Coors on this side, you got Yingling on, so like,
I wonder what kind it's going to be.
Different money has been involved with different kinds, and so that's kind of what it took. Some I think some massaging and negotiating and everything else along the way to kind of finally bring it to fruition, because you had all those different conflicts kind of behind the scenes, and that's what took it so long. And so now they're ready to do it. So
I am very interested to see which labels are there within the stadium, what that looks like. Is Joe Montana going to be there pushing Guinness? What is it going to look like? Is there going to be an official beer sponsor of Notre Dame? You know what I mean? Like, I'm very curious to see what this looks like.
Might look for a silver bullet. I don't know. We'll see.
Think so? Think the mountains are turning blue?
Very well might. Okay, so on final subject today, kind of a little bit along the same line.
This is tough. This is really tough. All right.
We've always got people coming into town for the game, blue gold game, obviously, this weekend. We've got first timers, and everyone wants to ask for food advice. So, pizza, beer, burgers. Where are you going for each one? If you're going to give one place, you can't give multiples.
I know.
Gotta give one.
So pizza is either going to be.
You're going to give multiple.
Yeah, because it depends on what you like. You know what I mean? Like that is a thing, right? Do you like the thin crust? Do you like the thicker crust? I think that's a thing. So Bruno's is my thick crust go-to. I'm a big fan of Bruno's. My thinner crust pizza is Barnaby's.
Yes.
Those are my two right there.
I mean, obviously a lot of people like Rocco's, which is right by campus.
Yeah.
I've never been a Rocco's guy. Barnaby's is pretty much our family go-to.
Barnaby's is so good. It is
great toppings, thinner crust, so you don't get full of the bread.
Yeah.
So
it's ridiculously priced, but there's so many coupons out there that if you're ever paying full price for Barnaby's, shame on you. Like, that's why I see that one.
That's true.
To be honest, but it is so good. The only problem with Barnaby's is it takes so long sometimes to get your pizza that you're ready.
Got to order in advance. Order in advance, man.
You're ready to just gnaw off an arm before it actually shows up at your table. But
especially on a Friday or Saturday night.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it is really, and it's worth it. The last time we went, we had to wait over an hour for our pizza. And by the time it got out, I was so hungry, I just started eating it. And I burnt the crap out of the top of my mouth. But I didn't care because it tasted so good. That's where I was at with Barnaby's Pizza.
Awesome.
So.
Good stuff. All right. Yeah. What about your burger? Where are you going to for a burger here in town?
So obviously there's a lot of chain burgers. But CJ's burgers are the best.
Kind of the renowned CJ's.
You know, you go there, you can also, like, I've gone there a few times, obviously, right? I usually buy my CJ's at Martin's and cook it at my own house because they sell them there. And I'm a big fan of the CJ burgers. So that's what I would say. I would say CJ burgers are the best.
That's where I would go as well. CJ's. Because, you know, again, you get your Five Guys, you got all these other chains and stuff like that.
Right.
So, like, if you're coming in and you don't have a Five Guys or a Culver's,
Red Robin, Culver's,
that's
good, yeah,
like you can hit any of those, and those are always good options. But like for a good local place with a burger, I got to go CJ.
That's what I was trying to do because, like, I am a big fan of Red Robin. I love their unlimited side items. Like, you get fries for days.
You do.
They're fantastic. Their garlic fries are so good. But like, the local establishment, I think you got to go to CJ's. Yeah.
All right. You're not as big on the beers, but like if you're going to recommend to somebody.
But you know, I made my rounds when I was in college.
Okay.
So, you know, you can't, like, I was never a huge fan of linebacker. Just because I did value my personal space.
Yeah.
But the linebacker is obviously a go-to if you've never been before. Like, you at least have to say that you've been there, right? So that one and Corby's are the two I think that you have to go to if you claim that you're a Notre Dame fan. Those are the two that you have to hit. I know Brothers is a big one these days. It's a newer deal, but it's right on Eddy Street there, walking distance to the stadium, you know, that kind of thing.
Brothers and O'Rourke's is another one, you know, right there, like in terms of the Eddy Street type places. I'll just go with Fiddler's Hearth downtown.
That's a good one.
Because
I've never been there, but I know.
Oh, really? You've never been to
have.
Fiddler's Hearth? Man,
no.
I have to go there sometime.
I know the ambiance is very, like, they got Irish music.
Get a little shepherd's pie, some fish and that's the thing. It's like it's an Irish pub.
Right.
So they've got, you know, like Irish food menus as well as, you know, like some American stuff on there as well for the kids and that kind of thing. But they've got multiple different kinds of beers, you know, imports and stuff like that. So like if you want some of the like South, like I agree, like you've got to go to the linebacker if you've never done the linebacker. But I would also go to Fiddler's Hearth. We'll have to go there sometimes.
Yeah, we should. The linebacker is a weird, like it's kind of like Two-Face, the criminal in Batman, right? So like during the week, it's just a bunch of old guys that go there for like lunch,
basically a dive bar during the week.
Yeah, but then like at night, it like transforms into like this college, you know, again, no personal space, like everybody dancing and like the whole deal. Like that place is amazing for that reason only. Like the clientele shifts just almost a 180. It's very interesting.
DK says Steve's Burger is better than CJ's. Is there a place called Steve's here in
I've
town?
never heard of Steve.
No idea what you're talking about.
And what about Josh says Hall's Kitchen or Luigi's for
Josh has always been big on the Hall's Kitchen. I actually tried out some Hall's Kitchen. I can't remember.
Is that a
It's
place?
been about a year ago because Josh was always talking. I think we got a pizza there, and it's pretty solid pizza.
Okay. Where is it?
There's a few locations. There's one in Mishawaka that
Okay.
I know of. It might be on Lincoln Way. And there's one, I want to say there's one like close to Adams High School, if I remember right. But Josh is more up on the Halls. I had never really heard of them until Josh brought it up over a year ago, and we tried them out, and they're fairly solid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good deal.
Yep. All right. So there's our food and beer Rex.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, but there will always be a food and beer thread on the Champions Lounge.
That is true.
No matter what.
I hope there's a lot of people coming into town to watch the game. That'd be awesome. Like I said, I'm going to have a bunch of my IB stickers on me. So if you happen to see me in the parking lot, give me a holler. I'll give you a sticker. Should be fun. Should be a good time. We'll see. The weather's supposed to be pretty decent.
Yeah, it is.
So that's good.
Mid-50s, pushing 60, some sunshine. So
can't beat
that'll
that.
be good. A little bit warmer than today.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to do it. We will wrap it up with that. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Blue Gold game if you're going. Be safe if you're traveling. Enjoy it on Peacock if you so choose. If you don't, just tune in after the game because we'll have you covered, and of course we'll have you covered next week as well as we talk about everything that happens in that game. All right, well, that's going to do it. We'll wrap it up with that. Hit the like button. Up. There you go. Josh said South Bend location by Adams. I go to Mishawaka one on Lincoln.
There it is.
They won in Elkhart as well. So
I'm going to have to check it out. I've never heard of Hall's Pizza before. So
yeah, they've got a website, I think. Check them out.
Josh.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up with that. Hit the like button before you leave, and we'll talk to you later. IB Nation Sports Talk.